Alright, on this episode of Gridiron Legends, we're going to take a look at one of the 100 greatest football players of all time, Emlen Tunnell. Now let's get into it. Okay, Emlen Tunnell played 14 seasons in the NFL as a safety and return specialist for the New York Giants and the Green Bay Packers. He was selected as a first-team All-Pro 6 times and played in 9 Pro Bowls. He was a member of NFL championship teams in 1956 and 1961. When he retired as a player, he held NFL career records for interceptions with 79, interception return yards with 1,282, punt returns with 258, and punt return yards 2,209. Tunnell was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 1967. Now let's take a look at his college career. Tunnell enrolled at the University of Toledo in the fall of 1942, and he played college football as a halfback for the Toledo Rockets football team. He was described as the mainspring of Toledo's offense in the first part of the 1942 season. However, on October 26, 1942, he sustained a broken neck in a game when he was blocked while attempting to make a tackle against Marshall. He healed up enough to help lead the Toledo Rockets men's basketball team to the finals of the 1943 National Invitation Tournament. Tunnell's neck injury in 1942 resulted in his being rejected in efforts to enlist in both the United States Army and the Navy during World War II. In May of 1943, Tunnell enlisted in the United States Coast Guard, and from August 1943 to July of 1944, he served on the USS Edelman, a cargo ship that was manned by Coast Guard personnel and stationed in the Southwest Pacific area. Now, in April of 1944, while unloading explosives and gasoline in New Guinea, the Edelman was struck by a torpedo dropped from a Japanese airplane. Tunnell saved a fellow crew member who was set afire in the blast. He beat out the flames with his hands, sustained burns on his own hands, and carried the shipmate to safety. He was next stationed at San Francisco and Alameda from August 44 to October of 1945. Now, in the fall of 1944, Tunnell played at the halfback position for the San Francisco Coast Guard Pilots football team. And on November 11, 1944, he led the Pilots to a 13-0 victory over Amos Alonzo Stagg's Pacific Tigers football team, throwing 22 yards for a touchdown and returning an interception 75 yards for another touchdown. At the end of the 1944 season, he was named to the All-Pacific Coast Guard Service football team. He also played basketball for the San Francisco Coast Guard, scoring 13 points in a December 1944 game against the California Golden Bears. Now, in March of 1946, while stationed at Naval Station Argentina in Newfoundland, Tunnell rescued a shipmate who fell from the USS Tampa. Tunnell jumped into the 32-degree water and saved his drowning shipmate. Tunnell was honorably discharged from the Coast Guard in April of 1946. He then enrolled at the University of Iowa in the fall of 46. Playing for the 46 Iowa football team, Tunnell led the team with 541 yards of total offense and 28 pass completions. And he also ranked second on the team with 333 rushing yards. In October of 1947, he set an Iowa single-game record with 155 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns on 6 receptions. 3 weeks later, Tunnell quit the team after an argument with backfield coach Frank Cardillo. He apologized and was reinstated 2 days later, but he played sparingly in the final 2 games of the 47 season. Tunnell left Iowa in January 48 in order to make some money to enable him to return and play football in the fall. He was told by school officials that in order to be eligible to play football again in the fall, he would need to return for summer school and make up for a class that he failed in the fall. Tunnell later explained, "I got a telegram on Sunday saying I had to be back in school on Monday and didn't have any money or nothing." Now let's take a look at his time in New York. In 1948, Tunnell signed with the New York Giants. He was the first African-American signed by and the first to play for the Giants. He later wrote that he hitchhiked from his family home in Garrett Hill to New York City to meet Jack Mara, son of Giants founder Tim Mara, and asked for a tryout. In his Hall of Fame induction speech, Tunnell thanked a West Indian banana truck driver who dropped him off near the Polo Grounds. As a rookie in 1948, Tunnell appeared in 10 games and intercepted 7 passes, including 1 return 43 yards for a touchdown. Now, between 1949 and 1952, he was known as one of the best pass defenders and punt returners in the NFL. He was a key element in the Giants' famed umbrella defense that shut down the passing game of opponents in the early 1950s, and he was referred to as the Giants' offense on defense. Here are some of his accomplishments during those prime years. In 1949, he led the NFL with 2 interceptions returned for touchdowns and 3 non-offensive touchdowns. He ranked second in the NFL with 315 punt return yards and 251 interception return yards, and third with 10 interceptions. In 1950, he ranked second in the NFL with 305 punt return yards and fourth with 167 interception return yards. Now in 1951, he was selected as a first-team All-Pro and led the NFL with a career-high 489 punt return yards and 4 non-offensive touchdowns. He returned a kickoff 100 yards for a touchdown, and his combined total of 716 kick and punt return yards was second best in the NFL. His 37.8 yards per kick return and 3 punt returns for touchdowns remain Giants franchise records. His 9 interceptions and average of 14.4 yards per punt return both ranked third in the NFL. Alright, I just wanted to take a minute to say that if you like my Gridiron Legends series, then you're probably going to like another channel that I watch, Free Sports Cards. Steve at Free Sports Cards not only digs up some interesting information on a specific player, he also gives away a free sports card of that player. His channel is a must-watch for sports cards collectors, as well as those people that love diving into the history of the players. Check out his channel and let him know you heard about him from me. Now, back to the video. In 1952, he was again selected as a first-team All-Pro, also leading the NFL with 6 fumble recoveries and 411 punt return yards, and averaged 13.7 yards per return. He ranked among the league leaders with 7 interceptions and 149 interception return yards. That year, he gained more yards, 924, returning interceptions, punts, and kickoffs than the 1952 NFL rushing leader, Dan Towler. Tennell remained with the Giants for a total of 11 years from 1948 to 1958. During that time, he was selected as a first-team All-Pro 6 times, played in 8 Pro Bowls, and set franchise records that still stand with 74 intercepted passes for 1,240 interception return yards and 4 touchdowns. He's tied with Dick Lynch and Jason Sehorn. He also recovered 15 fumbles and still holds the franchise record with 257 punt returns for 2,206 yards and 5 touchdowns, which was good for an average of 8.6 yards per return. His total of 3,421 return yards is also a franchise record. All right, let's move on to his time with the Green Bay Packers. After the 1958 season, the Giants' offensive coordinator, Vince Lombardi, left New York to become the head coach and general manager of the Green Bay Packers. Now, in June of 1959, the Packers, in one of their first major personnel moves under Lombardi, purchased Tennell from the Giants. In 3 years with the Packers, Tennell saw reduced playing time, but helped to bolster the defense with his experience and worked to develop the team's young players and became known as an official pastor for the team. He appeared in 13 games for the 1961 Packers team that won the NFL championship. He saw playing time in red zone defensive situations. Defensive backs coach Norb Hecker said of Tennell, he was still a vicious tackler. When the opposition got inside our 15, we put him in and he responded with the fury of a linebacker. He could fall back on experience and by watching an offensive player's move and was seldom beaten. Some career accomplishments and honors that Tennell received after he announced his retirement as a player include his 79 career interceptions were an NFL record and remain second most in NFL history, having been surpassed in 1979 by fellow Iowa Hawkeye Paul Krause. His 1,282 interception return yards were an NFL record for 4 decades and ranked 5th in NFL history as of 2017. His 258 punt returns were an NFL record, but ranked 19th in league history as of 2017. And his 2,209 punt return yards were an NFL record, but ranked 30th as of 2017. He played in 158 consecutive games, which was also an NFL record when he retired as a player. Now, during his 14-year NFL career, Tennell also totaled 16 fumble recoveries, 8.6 yards per punt return, and 1,215 yards on 46 kickoff returns, which is an average of 26.4 yards per return. Tennell has received numerous honors for his contributions to the sport, including the following. In February of '67, he was elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He was the first African American and the first player who played strictly as a defensive back to be inducted. Now, in addition to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, he was named to the NFL 1950s All-Decade Team and the all-time All-Pro Team, and was ranked number 70 on the Sporting News' list of the 100 greatest football players. He was also inducted into the Iowa Sports Hall of Fame, was inducted into the New York Giants Ring of Honor as well. And in 2011, Tunnell was posthumously recognized by having the gymnasium on Coast Guard Island named in his honor, and was awarded the Silver Life-Saving Medal for his heroism in rescuing his shipmate on the Tampa. And in 2017, the Coast Guard also announced that it planned to name its 45th Sentinel-class cutter the USCGC Inland Tunnel. Now, in 2021, the Coast Guard announced plans to name an athletic building on the Coast Guard Academy campus the Inland Tunnel Strength and Conditioning Center. Hey, congrats for making it to the end of my video. If you enjoyed this content and are looking for more Gridiron Legends, check out this video over here. And if you're looking for something different, try this video over here. Don't forget to tune in next week as we take a look at football card design in the 1980s. Stay safe out there. I'll see you next time.